My name is Randy Garst, and I'm going to be doing the trainer support webinar for business intelligence today. I know Lori Lawton usually does these sessions, but she is out of the office on a well-deserved vacation, so I'm going to be covering BI today for everyone on this call. So if at any point you have any questions, you want me to demo anything, go ahead and use that chat feature to let me know items that you're interested in getting some reporting out of. I want this session to be very beneficial for you, so I will be doing all of my reporting from the production environment so that you can see real-life data. I don't want to use the train environment where you're not seeing real vendors, don't know the name of vendors, to be able to pull reporting information. So everything that I'm going to do is out of the production environment today. So we'll go through BI, the business intelligence, and the different types of reports that you can pull, different administrative reports, different ad hoc reports. I'll show you how to run those reports and export those reports so that you can have a PDF, a Word doc, an Excel document for all of your reporting needs. So I'm just going to go through a quick slideshow. This is kind of a modified slideshow of what we went over almost a year ago, but I'm going to dive more into the ad hoc reporting now that our agencies have been up and running in BidBuy for so long. They know more of what they're looking for, so I want to be able to show you those pieces of information. So with administrative reports, those are standard reports. Those are out-of-the-box reports that we can run that are written for us, where you can search a particular purchase order number, where you could search different dates between a start date and an end date, can capture between a particular time. So I'll show you some of those. Then I'm going to go, we can run a bid Q&A report. And again, this is that administrative report where you would put in a bid number and then click on OK, and it would give us a bid Q&A report for the particular bid that we've put in there. But the best feature that I feel that we offer is ad hoc reporting. Ad hoc reporting allows us to build any report with any of the information within BidBuy and allows us to get the information that we want, that we need. Every agency is going to need and want something different from the next agency. So kind of having these built as standard reports wouldn't be beneficial to any agency. Us here, we're not going to know what every agency's needs are. Every agency is going to be different. So we're going to go through some of those now. And then again, we've got state user, the support website, stateuser.bidbuy.illinois.gov. I know by now you guys know that. It's just been on here from the last go-around of this training session. So with that said, I'm going to dive right in to BidBuy here. And as you guys know, I'm with the help desk, so I've got access to every single agency. I know you guys at the agencies, yours doesn't look like this, but ours here, we've got access to all agencies. So if you have access to more than one agency, it's always important to know what agency you're logged into. So if you're at DOC and you've got access to DOC and DJJ, make sure you know which org you're in, because that's going to prove beneficial here in a little bit, and I will show you why. So we have some different features within BidBuy. This little magic wand is for ad hoc reporting. It is like magic, so I do like the wand. So if we click on our little wand here, this ad hoc reporting will allow us to create any type of report that we want. We'll build any sort of criteria. So when we click on ad hoc report, we get these two fields up here. We want to click on domains and then expand out public, buy speed, ad hoc, and domains. So here we can see accounting transactions, purchase order domain, quote, requisition, solicitation, so any bid information. But if you select a purchase order domain, all you're going to get is information that is on the purchase order. Same with a requisition. Same with solicitation. But we have this great one here that is an all documents domain, header level. This will probably be the one that is used the most because you can follow it in a report from rec to bid to PO, okay? So I'm going to show you something before I dig into this. I don't know how many agencies, I'm sure there's many agencies that would need to run the same report multiple times a month, multiple times a week, whether you run it quarterly. We have the ability that when we build an ad hoc report that you can save it and be able to access it later without constantly having to rebuild your own report, which is what I'm going to show you now. I worked on a report this morning, so I would still go my ad hoc route, but I would click on cancel. This allows me to view reports that I have saved. So I'm going to go over here to all types, and now I'm going to search my name here. So I have a Randy's report for training. If I click on this, I now will be the Business Intelligence Ad Hoc Report window. So all of my criteria is now saved, so I did not have to rebuild this report. This report was a request that DHS had asked for, so if you notice, I have it filtered for just DHS. So I can run this report monthly, weekly, quarterly, and not have to rebuild it every single time, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to close this, but now I'm going to show you how we actually build these reports. So again, I'm going to click on my magic wand here, and I'm going to go back to domains, public, buy speed, ad hoc, domains, and I'm going to select this all documents domain header level. Then I'm going to select choose data. When I choose data here, I have two fields. I've got this box on the left that are the fields that I'm going to be able to choose from, and that I'm able to choose from. The box on the right will be the fields available when I build my report. I never pick and choose here. I hit these double arrows to add everything. I want to be able to know that the field that I'm looking for is going to be available for my report. So I move everything over to the right, then we go down to the bottom left corner and select table. When this window opens up, more than likely the first time, everything is going to be collapsed down, okay? So we will see a report that looks something like this. So we see bid header table, quote header table, blanket control table, PO account, PO header, bill to and ship to. You see some vendor information. We scroll down, we see some rec header custom columns. So this is the rec to bid to PO. I can get everything in one report. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start building out a report that could prove beneficial for some people at an agency. So I'm going to start just with a PO report, but notice I didn't run the PO domain report for the purchase order. I'm going to run this all documents domain here. So I am looking for my purchase order header table. I know purchase order header table doesn't really mean much. That's the general tab of the purchase order. Okay, so if you think about general is the header. That's how we're building our PO. Okay, so I'm going to go down and I'm first going to select our PO number. And notice each click starts building my report out more and more. Again, keep in mind I have access to all agencies, so my report is already showing CMS and aging. Okay, so I'm going to keep digging this out a little bit farther. I'm going to select org ID. So you see here this PO number is CMS, but this org ID is aging. So I'm automatically assuming that that is a release. So we've got the fields up at the top under this blue header. Then we've got fields down at the bottom under this purple header. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here, and I know this just from practice and from building these reports that there is a release number field criteria down here in the measures section. So I'm going to select a release number, and then I'm going to move that next to the purchase order number so I can see right off the bat what release number it is. So I've got aging, this document, but it's release number 15. Once we see these zeros, we know that it's not a release, and that's why those are back to an aging PO number over here. Okay. Then another thing that is always needed is the short description. So I can double click on short description here. This report is going to start getting very large. So one of the first steps that I'm going to do is I'm going to filter my org ID. I don't want all agencies. So if I filter this, I go up to org ID and I would right click and create a filter. So now over on the right hand side is my filter. I've got an operator here that I can select. So I want is one of, let's select DHS here. Okay, so now instead of getting aging, CMS, DOC, I'm getting strictly DHS purchase orders. Okay, another item that may be helpful would be I want to know who the buyer is. So I can select the buyer's name. Now my report is building out even farther. So now I have a column for buyer name. Then I want to know the vendor on each one of these purchase orders. So I could go to this vendor section, expand that out, and I can select vendor name. Okay. Now we want a beginning and end date of this contract. So if you remember, where do we track the beginning and the end date of the contract? That is on the PO General tab. Okay. So therefore, I need to look at PO Header custom columns. This section is going to be a little confusing because if you look at this, you're going, okay, I have no idea what column 1 is or column 2, and this goes all the way down to column 30, okay? We are actually working on some data mapping to be available for the agencies so you don't have to do what we do and just guess and add every single value till we find the one that we want. From testing, I know that our PO header custom column 12 label, I add label in here just so I can verify that it is the actual contract begin date, then I can add the value. After the begin date comes the end date, so I'm going to add label 13 and the value, okay? So we've got our begin and end dates here. If I don't want the label to appear in my report, I can make those now go away. So now I'm left with just the value, okay? Now, another thing that would prove beneficial on a purchase order is how about the purchase order total amount, total of our POs. We can move that over after short description. You can click and drag these in any order that you want, okay? Now maybe if we need, let's try to think. So this is DHS as a whole, but now if I want to start searching a particular department, if I look at a department, I can double click and add my department information and be like, okay, does it make sense that everything is just jumbled up, or do I maybe want to sort this document or group this document based on the department? And if that's the case, I can move this department number down to the groups field, and now I've got business services grouped together, okay? You can either group it by buyer, you can group it by vendor, if you want to see how many contracts you currently have with the vendor. But then we have an issue here. So we've got a document status. These statuses over here are a little confusing. So sometimes you just have to play around with a report, is because I know there is another field that'll tell you exactly what those statuses mean. So right now, if I hover over that document status, it's the system code value indicating the status of the overall purchase order. Well, you don't know that 3PS on the back end means that the document, that the purchase order is sent, okay? There's a different code for canceled. There's a different code for in progress. So if we go and look through here, I am going to dig for a PO status, and now I can see that that is the one that I want to use and not this document status. So I'm going to make that document status go away. Now, if you're looking at a report and you need to report to your CFO on the actual total amount for contracts to date, you would need to create a filter for PO status. Because with this PO status, if we create a filter, I don't need to see canceled. We don't need to see in progress because it's not completed. So I can say, just show me all sent purchase orders for DHS grouped by department, okay? So I don't see anything in progress. I only see items that have been sent to this point in time, okay? So now if I want to add, all right, I've got the department, but how many, and the majority of our agencies drill down. So you've got your department and then you've got your location. Well, here I've got a PO location. So I can now add that up to my report, but it's showing after my status. But I can move this to be after an org ID, okay? The nice thing about ad hoc is if I say, all right, let me take a look at this, I think it's done, I can go up to this piece of paper, which is our export feature, and I can export this as an Excel document. It will load, it's thinking, building my report for me. This window will close and I will get a pop-up at the bottom of my BI ad hoc report screen that I can open my report. I need some Jeopardy music. Okay, so that loading window closed and my report is now down here at the bottom. So I'm going to click on my report. And it's opening on my other screen, so I'm going to move this over here. So here's now my report for business services. I can go down, so then I get back into the developmental disabilities, and now I see Kylie and Ludeman and Murray. It's like, okay, this is great. This is the information that I want, but I would really like my column D to be sorted by location. So I'm going to close my window, and my PO location here, if I right-click on my PO location and use it for sorting, my PO location is now over here, and I can select OK. So now when I run my report, it'll still be grouped by department, but now under each department it will be sorted by the location. All right, so my report opened up again. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here. So now under developmental disabilities, it's sorted. I've got CHOPE, then I've got Fox, and now it's sorted and easier for me to view. So if I needed to take it and take a chunk out for Fox to send to them, or take a chunk out for CHOPE to send to them, I can easily do that. Then of course I don't like to look at reports that don't have our lines through them here. I don't think many people do. You know, so you can now highlight, and this is now an Excel document, so you can manipulate this any way you'd like, okay? So if you want to create sortings at the top, if you want to freeze your top pane so you can follow it all the way down, all of those Excel features are now available to you to be able to function as you would like within Excel. I can save this document onto my desktop, a shared drive. I can do whatever I want with this now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this one. And now let's say I'm curious and I want to know all the documents or all the purchase orders that we have with a particular vendor. I can create a filter on a vendor, and now I'm building that out over here. I can show operator. Starts with, I could type it out. If I do is one of, I'm going to get a list of every single vendor associated with these DHS documents. Okay, so let's select 3M here. And nothing. So I guess it's not all of them, but I didn't pay attention to, all right, so here we've got multilingual connections. So there's two purchase orders, both releases off of a CMS master contract for DHS, okay? So with these reports, you just have to play along. You've got to think of what you want to get out of the system. That's the nice thing is every time I ran a report and I close my report, it still is sitting here as my ad hoc because I have not closed this window. Once I close this window, if I do nothing with this window, then I've lost it if I haven't saved it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove filter for our vendor, and my report will now be what it was prior to adding that vendor, okay? So we've got options here. So I'm going to show you now how I would save this PO report. I can go up to the save icon, and I'm going to save ad hoc view as. Default name says ad hoc view. I don't want it to be called that. I want it to be called, let's call it DHS PO report for sent status, okay? Then you're going, well, what are these two fields down here? So we've got default org, by speed, and personal folders. This is where I want to save this document because now this is a purchase order that, or this is a report, excuse me. This is a report that I'm going to run often. This isn't going to be a one-time report. So I'm going to go ahead and I see all of these personal folders. I see everybody listed here. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to say, I want to add it to Randy. But let's say I also want to add it to Michelle. I would have the ability to do a save as and add it to multiple people for them to be able to view this report. So I've worked with DOT. There was a group of people that would be running a report monthly for their division. Well, we ran just the generic report, and then each user would be able to go pull the report and sort it based on their division and have their report for the month without each user having to create the same report time and time again. So I select my name and I click Save. All right. So save was successful. I can close that. And now I'm going to close this window. Now, pretend, go into the future. I need to run this report again. I would click on my ad hoc report, my magic wand, and then I would click on cancel. It's the only way I can get to my saved reports, okay? So I'm going to go over and select that all types again, and I called it DHS PO report for sent status. Have that name be exactly what the report is, so that next month you're not trying to figure out what report it is that you need. So when I select this DHS PO report for sent status, I now see all of my criteria that I had saved appear here. So now if we don't need any other parameters, if we want to filter based on these contract begin and end dates, that would be something that I could do, that I could run monthly. If you put date parameters on your saved criteria, you'll have to remember to change that every time or add it individually at this point in time, okay? So then again, we can go up, export this into an Excel document, and we'll once again have our report generated for us without having to reselect the criteria every time. Okay, so I'm going to wait for this to run just so you can see that again. Okay, so now I've got my report. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to exit out of this, and now we can build another report. I'm going to go back up to our magic wand, and I'm going to go to Domains, Public, By Speed, Ad Hoc, Domains, and I'm going to select an All Documents domain again. This time, I'm going to move everything back over. I don't want to limit myself. If I forget to add rec information, I start building my report, and I need a rec number, I can't go back and add it. So my suggestion is to always start with everything moved into that right box so you can ensure that you've got all the fields that you need, okay? So I'm going to go to a bid header. Actually, let's start down at a rec. That was the custom columns. So I need to go back up here, and I'm going to look at requisition header table. So I'm going to look at a rec number here. And then I'm going to add a bid number. Then I'm going to go add a PO number. Okay. Notice there's nothing in the rec, there's nothing in the bid, but now I've got PO information. So I'm just going to keep working. So don't think that it doesn't work. I'm just going to keep it like this just to show you. So I'm going to select a PO org ID. I'm going to select the rec org ID, and I'm going to move that over next to the requisition. Then I'm going to go up and I'm going to select a bid. Oh, and there we just have organization. So we'll move that next to the bid. Okay. I'm going to filter this by the org ID. So let's take CMS here. Okay. I see CMS, see some of these, they don't have any rec numbers. Let's look at aging. Now I've got more information here. Reason being is we've got legacy contracts that were loaded into BidBuy that started off as a purchase order. So there was no rec number associated with it or no bid number associated with it because it was already an established contract. So I said, don't think that the information isn't there because until I start adding criteria, it's building my report based off of what's selected. So when I did a rec number first and it was all blank, it was because it was pulling POs in the order in which it showed, so there was no rec number associated with it, okay? So then we see org ID. So this rec went straight to PO, okay? So we're talking now we've got a release. So I can go down again and say, I want to see the release number and put that next to the PO to verify that those are releases, okay? So we want, let's go down, let's see what other type of requisition information we could possibly want to add to this report. So we can say, all right, let's see who the purchaser is. But this is the rec purchaser, so I'm going to move it with the rec information, okay? Keep in mind, I'm still at aging. I've got that filter over here to the right, okay? Let's see. Oh, we need a short description. So let's put that before the purchaser so we know what it is that they're purchasing. Okay? So we can start building this report out. If we want to know the status of these documents, you clearly know that this rec was sent to PO because we've got numbers associated there. But if we want to know that PO status, vendor, requisition, and here's PO. So I believe, see, I already forgot. Maybe it was PO status. Yep. So again, let's go ahead and create a filter, and I'm going to say show operator is not one of, I don't want canceled, I don't want in progress, maybe, well, no, we'll keep in progress. So I don't want canceled, and I don't want returned. So now I see ones that are sent, complete receipt, I'll see in progress. We'll be able to see more of this information, okay? So if we wanted to add the department name, that department number, again, we could do that, and let's sort this by department number so we can see what finance administration is doing. Let's add, nope, the location ID is not the one that I want because that one doesn't give us the appropriate information that we need. So we'll do the PO location. And then, again, I'm going to, click on the upper right of this header here and use this for sorting. You can add many fields to that. So if I wanted by PO location and then purchaser user ID, I could move these around if I wanted it to sort by user ID first and then location, but I want to do location and then ID. Okay? So we've got some documents here that now we see started at a bid. They didn't start at a rec. We've got some recs that have gone straight to PO. Okay? So I'm going to run this report, and we can look at this in an Excel document to make it a little bit easier. Because when we are looking at this, we get sample data. You can see that. It's highlighted in blue. So you only get the first 20 fields or so, 20 rows or so. You can select full data, but depending on how large your report is, this ad hoc report is going to be filling in all of those fields, which is usually what happens when we select export to Excel. That's when it's filling out the rest of our report for us. So when you select full data, just be prepared that it may take longer for your report to actually populate than if you have sample data selected. Okay, so here's my report down at the bottom. And from this report, you can follow your document from beginning to end. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit more user-friendly here. I'm going to add my borders, and I'm going to freeze my top row so I know exactly what I'm looking at throughout the entire report. Okay? Usually when you click on a requisition, it gives you then the bid number as a hyperlink at the top. The bid number, when you go there, it'll give you a hyperlink to your purchase order number at the top. But if you're looking at your purchase order, you've got to go to either the bottom of the summary tab or the items tab to have a link back to your requisition and to your bid. This report gives you all those numbers in one report. Okay? Does anyone have any questions? I've got my chat box open and I'm waiting for it to blow up. So, if you've got any questions, go ahead and submit them there. I'll keep checking back with that chat feature. But I wanted you all to know the abilities that this BI tool can offer. You know, we get multiple requests. Can you run this report for us? Yeah, we can. But we also like everyone to know that this is something that can be done at the agency. You know, I can build these reports here, but I don't know exactly what information the agencies will need. You know, I can add it, I can save it, I can make it available to you, but without being at your agency full time, I don't know all the information that you're going to want to pull. And then, you know, with my report that I went ahead and saved, if in a month I say, you know what, I need to add something to that, I can add it and I can resave over my initial report. So I can continually keep building that without having to start over. Patty had asked, will the PO custom column description be updated? And Patty, I think that you're referring to more of the custom column and what we see over in this section. So where it says PO header column 8 value, that will not be updated. However, we are working on a document that will have PO header custom column 8 is, I don't know what 8 is, but PO custom column 12 is the actual contract begin date. And PO custom column 13 is the contract end date. So we'll have that data mapped out for you as a quick reference guide for when you are building these reports. Because honestly, I don't know what they all are, and I sit here and double-click every single one to add it to my report to get it figured out. So we are working on that data mapping document, and we'll have that available, and we will get that posted out to the trainer support website, so that's available to all users that will be using these reporting features, because they are a very, very powerful tool, and you can't break it. You know, so me playing around with business intelligence, I'm not manipulating data in any way. All I'm doing is pulling the data out. So if you want to sit and you know the reports that you need, sit and start looking at it, you know. All of the other fields are called what they are, except those custom columns. And like I said, that is something that we are working on and hope to have it available to you by the end of the week. So once it is, we can email the SPOs and let them know when that gets posted out there, and then they can let the agencies know, because that'll just be another valuable tool. Okay. I see we've got a question here that exempt notices are entered as a bid and no PO is issued. The bid is just sent by the SPO. What fields would I need to use in order to get them to appear in a report? Okay, so exempt notices. Exempt notices, you add a type code for exempt notice, and you also add an accounting code for an exempt notice. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove some of these fields here. And we'll keep that org ID. We track some of that information in our accounting tab. And I can look at, oh, that's PO account. I can pull sorry, I'm looking for this. But you can pull based off of account codes. So let's scrap that report. Oh, I've got to log back in here. All right, so if we want a bid report, so that's kind of what it looks like we've got here. So I can run this solicitation domain here, and all I'm going to get is bid fields. So I don't have to look through all the rec stuff that I'm not, or the PO stuff that I'm not going to pull. So if I look at the bid header, so let's look at, let's select the buyer name here. Let's add the department name, location name, organization, and I'm going to create a filter again on this org here. Let's just do aging again, they're up at the top. I can, oh, and actually, scratch that, because accounting is not on the bid. So we will have to run that other report and get that information. Joy, let's me and you set up, we can set up a separate session and we can go through that information for you. And we can work with you to get that type of report that you would need. But we do have the ability to select accounting where we can choose the account code and the account type. So if you select exempt notice there, or if you select the bid type code, you know, we can add type code here. Right now, I know you guys have no idea what 9535, all of that is, but I believe exempt notice is a type 65, so we could run it that way if the bid itself was categorized as an exempt notice. But I can work with you separately. We can get something scheduled to go through that information, if that is okay. But the one thing to be aware of is you cannot break BI. If you run a giant report, you know, it may take a little bit longer to run, but you're not going to manipulate any data within BidBuy. Okay, so it's nice to be able to run it in the production environment so you're seeing your agency's actual info. Okay. Another quick one to run through is, I'm going to switch agencies here really quick. We get asked often if we could run an approval path report for an agency. I've got this little pie, maybe, that is the administrative reports. If I click on that and go down to the very bottom of this screen, I see approval paths. If I click on it, I'm going to get my box that pops up that says, what agency do I want to run this for? Because I have access to all agencies. If you've got access to multiple agencies, you will see them listed here. If you only have access to one agency, you'll only see your agencies there. So I'm going to select DOC and say apply. And I get a report of DOC's approval path. I see the dollar range, the document type, who's approving it, if there's departments and locations specified in there. I get a 49-page report. That does not mean there are 49 approval paths, because this one approval path could have, like this one has 2 pages. So you can go through all of these, and once again, you can export this. I like to do these as Word documents because I like to be able to manipulate them. So if I export this as a Word document, that again is on the other screen, it will appear exactly how it is on this screen. Move it back over here. And now I get my report. So I can scroll through these. Here we've got, you know, ICI. We see the departments and locations broke down if your agency has them specified that way. So this is something that your agency can run to always keep up to date on your own approval path without state user having to run those for you. You've got the tools. We want you to be able to use them so that you're always up to speed with what's going on. Okay? There is one thing that I wanted to touch on that is not BI associated, and that is, and I think Lori touched on it 2 weeks ago, but in terms of marking documents as confidential. So marking documents on a bid, the attachments tab on the bid, if you want it to show to the vendor which, if it's an unrestricted bid, will show publicly. Mark show to vendor. If you want it confidential, don't mark show to vendor. On a quote, if the agency is manually adding a quote for a vendor and you're adding their attachments, mark those attachments as confidential. You know, we've got tax ID numbers, potentially social security numbers that are in those documents. So always be sure that if you do not want the document to be viewed publicly, that you mark them as confidential. All right. Does anyone have any questions at all? If you do, and you don't want to send them in the chat because I know we're at our time limit here, go ahead and you can email those questions to State User and we will get back to you. If you need further demonstrations on what we went over today, we can most definitely set those up. I have recorded this webinar, so it will be posted and will be viewable again to other participants at your agency that weren't able to attend. So with that said, I don't see any chats coming up. We'll go ahead and end this session, and you guys have a great rest of the day.